of people ask me how to memorize a piece properly. First, try to pick a piece that is not too long to get started. Not a 10-page piece, but maybe like 1 or 2 pages and go from there. 2, don't just rely on muscle memory. A lot of people play it many times and then they think, oh, they remember the piece. But then when they stop playing it, they forget, or they stop playing and they think about it, oh wait, I don't know how it goes. So you need more data than just the muscle memory to memorize a piece. Now I'm going to pick a piece that is a little bit shorter and more simple to get started, and you can go from there. So today we're going to talk about Arabesque for this memorization. This is a very simple piece, but I think you need to start with something simple, and then we can talk about these details so you can apply these to other pieces. First of all, this is only 2 pages, pretty short. So now we start from the beginning. If I play a little bit, you might remember this piece. This is the piece. Now, we want to start from the beginning. So first of all, you want to know what key this is in, right? Is it a major, is it a minor? It can be most likely a C major, or it's relative minor, A minor. So how do we know what key, right? Okay, first of all, we start with an A minor chord, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be an A minor, right? So we have to see other clues. Like for example, if it's in A minor, we're going to have some chords from A minor key, right? And then also if it's a harmonic minor, we'll see some G sharp. So we see that in the second page, we have some G sharp. So that's probably an A minor. And also at the end, this is a simple way to figure out what key it is, okay? So at the end, we also go, I finish on the A minor chord, because when you are in the specific key, for example, A minor, you have to go back to home chord, which is A chord, right? If it's in C key, C major key, you have to go back to the home chord, which is C major. So this is an A minor. Now, let's go back to the first page. So how do I make sure I memorize a piece very well, right? Now, other than knowing the key, we also want to know the chord, right? The structure of a song. So here you can see, okay, the beginning we have 2 bars of A minor. So this is kind of like introduction, right? So with a classical piece, especially this is from classical period, so you see a lot of times is a regular phrasing. That means an 8-bar phrase, like a long 8-bar phrase, and then you have like a 2 4-bar subphrase. So here it's pretty obvious that after these 2 A minor chord, you have this. So these 4 bars, that's the first half phrase, and then you have this 4 bars. Right, so that is the second half of the phrase. And then you go back, the other 8 bar, so same pattern like the first phrase, and then this second half is a little bit different from the second half of the first phrase. Now I also will look at the chord. Right, so the chord, what kind of chord do we have, right? We can take a look at it together so you know the chords, right? So the first one is pretty easy. When they stack together line to line to line, it is a root position. So this is a root position of A minor chord, right? Even you don't know what the name is, as long as you know these 3, oh, that's the A chord, that's pretty good. Of course, it'd be better if you can name it, but you know, even you say, oh, okay, it's an A chord, A minor, or A chord, it's fine. Now this one, it is not an A chord, even it starts from A. So you have to like, whenever you see they're not stacked together line to line to line, or space, 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 that means they are not in the root position. So now if we look at the keyboard, so let's take a look at the keyboard here. This is not an A minor chord because there's a skip, a bigger skip here, right? This is an A minor chord because you can stack, right? Skip 1, like that. Now this is not A minor, so you have to move them around. So try to move this A to up. And you have a D minor chord. So the first one is A minor, and then the second one is D minor. So a lot of times when it's like A to A, right? And keeping the A because that's a better bass line, smoother, so we don't have to jump, you know. So they're keeping the smooth bass line, so that's why we use inversion. And then next, right? So from this, right, from the A going to this, what is this? You have G, C, and E. Do you know what chord that is? All right, let's take a look at the piano real quick. This is not a G chord. So again, this is like too big of a gap. So you're gonna move the G up. Now you have C major chord. So you have A, right? You have a D, and then you have a C. Now next one is a little different. This, right? What is this? You have a G, B, and F. Do you know what chord that is? Now let's take a look. So a note is missing because this is a big gap, so you have to take a look at the right hand. Right hand is a D. Sometimes you will see all the notes with the right hand, so always look at also the right hand, okay? So this is called a G7, the dominant 7, the 5-7. So why do we have a 5-7? Because here, even though it's like A minor at the beginning, we are going into the C. So G7 to the C. I mean, you can argue that actually at the beginning may not be A minor. It can be like a C key, and then so you're like, you know, using the 6th chord, and then a D minor, so the 2nd chord, D minor, and then go to the C chord, and then the G7, and then C, right? Because also there's no G sharp in it. But then you're gonna, if you use a like a natural minor, you also don't have G sharp. So anyway, you have an A chord, you have a D chord, and then you have a C chord, and then you have a G7th, and go back to the C. Right, so that's the perfect cadence. We call it G7 to C. It can be a 5 to 1 or a 5-7 to 1. So that's the cadence, a perfect cadence. Usually you have a perfect cadence to end a bigger section, the end of a song, or a bigger phrase, like here, right? The one bigger phrase, and then we have a 5-7 to 1. And then next, if you go back to the music, you have the same thing, right? You have the A chord, and then you have a D, and then the A, and then the C, second inversion, and then G7, and then C. Right, so now you know, oh, okay, these are the chords. So that helps you solidify the memory. Oh, these are the chords that I will go through. Also the melody, we also have to know, oh, you know, the beginning, you have, right, basically the A position, you know, going up and down, and then you go 5 finger up, D position, A position, right? Because it's the A chord, and then the D minor, and go back to A, right? And then you have a different patterns here with the 8th note, right? So you will look at those things. And the second time is actually very similar, except the ending, right? Right, so an octave instead of going to the E. So the first page is very simple. Now let's look at the second page, right? So here, right, so when you look at a chord, you don't just look at, oh, okay, we have a bunch of notes. Which notes are the chord notes, right? We have to call the chord notes. So some of them are not chord notes. For example, the first bar, okay, we take a look at this. So we have an E in the right hand and a B. So these are the chord notes. The right hand, E and B. Left hand you have, right, the A is not in the chord. How do we know? Because these are called passing note or non-chord notes, because it's passing through between the G sharp and the B. So we have the G sharp, we have the B, and then the E. So this is an E chord, E major, E, G sharp, B. Okay, let's take a look at the keyboard here. Right, you have E, G, B. So that's the E major chord. So why do we have an E major chord? Next, we have, right, so pretty obvious the B and the D are not in the chord. So A minor, right? So E to the A. Why do we have E major to A minor chord? Because this is the 5 of the A minor, the dominant, E major, to A minor. The dominant is always major. Now, so we have the same thing, right? 5 to 1, 5 to 1. So that's like solidified. This is an A minor here. Okay, and then here, this is quite interesting because it's the same pattern, but we're going up. Now, whenever you see like an accidental, that tells you that maybe we are moving through a different key or borrowing some chords from a different key, a very close key. Now we have a C sharp, and then D is passing, and then we have an E, and then the right hand is an A. So what chord is that? Do we know? So we have a C sharp, E, and A. Now, C sharp, E, and A. Now that does not like a root position, so we have to move the A down. Now we have an A major chord. So why do we have an A major chord? What's the next chord? Let's take a look at the music again. Now the A major going to, what's next? That is a D minor chord. So we are temporarily going through the D minor. So why are we going to D minor? Because from A going to the D is very close. Right, so it's the fourth, the subdominant of A minor. So the fourth note from A. So we only have to add a C sharp. Well, we should have a B flat too, but you know, we don't have it because we are going through kind of like a melodic minor. It's only for temporary. So we have a dominant A major, and then going to the D minor. So that's a D minor temporarily, and then so these are like just kind of going through, passing to. So here we have an E major again. Why do we have E major? Because that's a dominant of A minor. So we know, okay, E major, dominant, we're going back to what? A minor. So next we're going to go back to A minor. So a lot of times we have called this like a secondary dominant. It's not in the key, right? The D minor and then that A major chord, because A major is not in A minor key. So it's definitely borrowed from another key. So we have the same thing going back to our tempo, right? The same as beginning for the 4 bars, but this part is a bit different, right? Because instead of here, we have to stay in the A because we're ending the song, so we have to go back to A minor. We're going to stay in the A minor key. Now here, this one, right? So these are suspension. We call them suspension because they are not in the A chord. So this is the A chord, right? But you have a D and a B, right? So they are all like suspension, resolving into the A minor chord. So it's like a kind of like lingering a little bit. Hey, we're going to A minor, but hey, maybe we can stay a bit longer before we go into A minor. But we still here. Okay, we have to go home, and then at the end we're going to. So we have the A minor and then the D minor, 1 and 4 of A minor key, and then we go, right? So we kind of like solidify that, hey, we are going back home in the A minor key. I hope that helps you understand a song a little bit better and analyzing through a song, and that helps actually really solidify your memory, other than just using muscle memory to remember a song. And next time we can talk more about a longer piece, you know, when you have like 4 or 5 pages, like a sonata, first movement, how do we tackle that? And then require a lot of like lampposts, you know, to like, okay, this is one stop, you know, like a bus stop. Okay, so if you forget about that part, you can jump to the next part and things like that. And until next time, this is Teresa Wong. Cheers.